This time I'm in some...
C'est un endroit qui ressemble à la Louisiane. À l'Italie. Il y a du linge étendu sur la terrasse.
Mande and Chateau Vincennes. Behind Chateau Vincennes is a huge park that takes up much of the 12th arrondissement. Vincennes of the 12th is that blob that sticks out of the administrative border delineation. That's pretty much the peripherique, apart from the blob that sticks out towards the southeast. No, I arrived late looking for parking. It was well dark. There were loads and loads of clapped out on vans, not dissimilar to my own, parked up at spaced distances throughout the roads that lead through the park. Busy roads, but not at night. The vans increased in number early in the morning and into the evening, daytime as well. Nighttime, a fair number of them, I think some of them were just holding spaces, a fair number of them had fluorescent-y, blobby type lights, almost a bit like lava lamps, and there was someone inside them. And sometimes a car would drive alongside and wind down their window and speak to the person that was inside behind the illuminated dash blobby light. I twigged I didn't need to see the person park up and go into the van, and then, yeah, you get the picture. There is like what seems like a police or a military barracks or something nearby. I don't know if they provide the bread and butter or just the association. Dozens and dozens of these clapped out odd vans in the park, though no, constitutes the Parisian blobby light district for the price of just 2 tickets to the Pigalle, the Folie Bergère, the traditional beating heart of Montparnasse. You could probably buy yourself one of those vans. All the can-can dancers and the art directors are all British anyway. But parked up even on the other side, still got some funny looks. Didn't want to read into it, but I did wonder whether I wasn't necessarily the least attractive of all the van occupiers. But the dog walkers and the 20-somethings that were on their way back from smoking around the moat of the chateau were probably thinking, it takes all sorts these days. There's even those that do it the English way. Chateau Vincennes has been around since 1100s, established as a royal residence. There was good hunting in the nearby forest, but there was also 2 Roman roads in close proximity, as well as the Marne and the Seine rivers, before going off to the Crusades. An early Louis left from here, never to return. Some Philippes were married here. A Louis and a Charles died here. The chateau became fortress-like during the 1300s. The Jacquerie and Etienne Marcel were leading revolts by Parisian merchants against the crown. Uprisings, so they needed a secure residence near Paris. A little bit like the Versailles idea. But these were the times of the 100 Years' War with the English. The 1400s were turbulent. Charles the Mad stayed there. But who might have been next? Philip the Good of Burgundy had a rival. When the English won the Battle of Agincourt, 2-finger salutes and all that to the archers, the Treaty of Troyes gave it and Paris to Henry V of England, who died there of dysentery, aged 35. But once Burgundy changed sides and the English were out, the Loire Valley became more popular. I like Sainte-Chapelle of Vincennes, the church that you can see inside the castle fortress, partly because it took centuries to build, much the same as my own project. But the whole fortress is proper. It's got a triumphal arch, a drawbridge over the moat. At different times it's been an armaments factory, a porcelain factory, an industrial bakery, a venue for horse races. But the king put the buildings up for sale as separate lots. but the French Revolution intervened. It had been a prison. Diderot had been there. People from the affairs of the poisons. The Marquis de Sade was held there. Mirabeau, and a famous swindler that I've never heard of. Latude, who escaped Vincennes twice and the Bastille once. He's like Lupin, I tell you. The abuses of the royal judicial system and the practice of keeping prisoners without trial contributed to the revolution, after which it became a prison and a barracks, though it was a symbol of oppression. The Temple prison in Paris had been demolished so that it couldn't be a shrine to Marie Antoinette, who was held there, but her confidants moved to Vincennes with a ceramic tile stove from Marie Antoinette's old cell, made the fortress keep as comfortable as they could. Marie Antoinette wasn't going to need it. The church was given a wooden floor, mid-level, and was turned into an arsenal. In a poor state of repair, most of the towers were mostly demolished. After Napoleon's 1814 defeat in Russia, the Sixth Coalition of forces against Napoleon surrounded Vincennes, but the castle held out until a new king was appointed in Paris. The general in charge saying that he'd only surrender when the Allies give back his leg that he'd lost in the previous battle against them. It became an artillery school. The Sainte-Chapelle, the church, survived its timber mezzanine level, and Viollet-le-Duc was involved in the restoration. 1860, the area became part of the city of Paris. 10 years later, the Paris Commune soldiers fraternised with the regular army soldiers at the chateau, and it was given up without a fight. The chateau was the last holdout where the red flag stood flying after Paris had been recaptured, though the turncoat officers were eventually shot in the moat. You've heard of Matahari, the famous German spy of the First World War. 1917, she was shot in the moat. It was to be the base of operations for the defence of France in the Second World War, but didn't last long. It was much more useful to the Nazi Germans. A lot of resistance were shot in the moat. That there is the Pavilion of the King and the Pavilion of the Queen tickles me somehow. They're like huge palaces. It's a bit more than having separate rooms, or even separate beds within the same room, or separate quilts on the same bed. But I am impressed that it was one of the first examples of ironwork being used to reinforce a structure. Since its early days, the area itself, Vincennes, the town hall's quite nice, and Saint-Mande, you'd consider a good area if you lived there. Good stay, yes, but perhaps further along the tram lines at the Place of the Nation you might be more interested to find your Airbnb, which strictly speaking is part of the 11th arrondissement, not the 12th. You're halfway to the Marais by then. The Latin Quarter, central Paris. It's a perfectly reasonable walk. I feel here I've dodged many of the tourist cliches of the opposite side of the clock, where you'd find the Arc de Triomphe, Champs-Élysées and the Tour Eiffel. But we all know there's much more to Paris to get to know than just that and the Louvre. Mande and Chateau Vincennes. Behind Chateau Vincennes is a huge park that takes up much of the 12th arrondissement. Vincennes of the 12th is that blob that sticks out of the administrative border delineation. That's pretty much the peripherique, apart from the blob that sticks out towards the southeast. No, I arrived late looking for parking. It was well dark. There were loads and I tend to park up on the west side of Paris, and I'm getting to know it quite well. It's slightly in or out of the periphery. You can take a brisk walk into the centre, or a short hop on the metro line. Straight from the Calais ferry, or prepped for a quick exit. 12 o'clock in the periphery gives vigorous athletic walking exercise in good shoes to Montparnasse. Don't believe anything it says anywhere on the internet, free parking in Paris. Everything's zoned. But out of season, you won't get tickets. Quote me.